Somewhere in the turquoise waters of the Bahamas, there is an island that you will never visit. It has no roads, no neighbors, no noise. Just white sand, warm water, and absolute silence. It belongs to one person, and that person paid a price that most people cannot even imagine. Not just to buy it, but to keep it alive. Private islands sound like the ultimate fantasy, the kind of thing you see in a James Bond film or a billionaire's Instagram post. But behind every private island is a financial story that almost nobody talks about. A story of hidden costs, logistical nightmares, and a business model that very few people ever figure out. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the most exclusive asset classes on the planet. We are going to look at what it actually costs to own a private island, how the economics work, who is really making money, and why some of the wealthiest people have quietly walked away from their islands at a significant loss. Because owning a private island is not what you think it is. And by the end of this video, you will understand why. Let us start with the purchase price, because this is where most people's understanding begins and ends. You search online, you find a private island listed for $2 million, and you think, that's surprisingly affordable. And you're right. There are private islands in countries like Belize, Panama, Canada, and the Philippines that sell for anywhere between $500,000 and $5 million. Some smaller undeveloped islands in remote parts of Canada have sold for under $200,000. But here's what that price does not tell you. That $2 million island is just the land. What comes with it is essentially nothing. No electricity, no fresh water, no buildings, no road, no dock, no internet, no sewage system, just raw, untouched land surrounded by water. And now, the real spending begins. The development phase of a private island is where fortunes are quietly consumed. Before you can spend a single night on your island, you need infrastructure. And building infrastructure in the middle of the ocean is extraordinarily expensive. Every single material, every bag of cement, every steel beam, every window frame, every wire has to be transported by boat or by air. There are no hardware stores nearby. There are no local contractors you can call. You are building in one of the most logistically challenging environments on Earth. Industry estimates suggest that basic infrastructure development on a private island, a small residence, a dock, a generator system, basic water collection, costs somewhere between $1 and $5 million, depending on the location and the scale. And that's for something modest. If you want a luxury villa, multiple guest cottages, a helipad, a desalination plant, and solar power infrastructure, you're looking at $10 to $30 million in construction costs alone. Some of the world's most developed private islands have seen total development costs exceed $100 million. Richard Branson's Necker Island in the British Virgin Islands is one of the most famous examples. Branson purchased the island in 1978 for $180,000, a price he negotiated down from $3 million because the owner was desperate to sell. But what Necker Island looks like today did not come cheap. Over the following decades, Branson invested tens of millions of dollars into developing the island. Today, it's estimated to be worth $100 million. But that transformation took decades, enormous capital, and an almost obsessive level of personal involvement. Now here's where the economics get truly interesting. Because once you've spent the money to buy and develop your island, the real question is what you do with it. And this is the question that separates the people who thrive as private island owners from the people who eventually sell at a loss. There are essentially two models for private island ownership. The first is pure private use. You own the island entirely for yourself, your family, and your guests. No revenue, no guests from outside, just a personal retreat. The second model is the commercial model. You rent the island out to wealthy travelers, corporations, or film productions to generate income that helps offset the enormous running costs. Let's talk about the pure private use model first, because this is what most people imagine when they dream of owning an island. And the economics here are brutal. A private island, even after it's fully developed, never stops costing money. The operating costs of maintaining a private island are staggering, and they run whether you're there or not. A full-time island staff, caretakers, maintenance workers, a boat captain, security personnel can cost somewhere between $200,000 and over $1 million per year for a fully staffed, fully operational private island. You need someone on that island every single day. Tropical environments are aggressive. Salt water corrodes everything. Humidity destroys buildings. Without constant maintenance, an island can deteriorate remarkably fast. Then there's the fuel cost. Most private islands run on diesel generators, which means you're shipping fuel by boat on a regular basis. A mid-sized island with a generator system can burn through tens of thousands of dollars in diesel every single month. Solar systems reduce this cost significantly, but the initial investment in a solar and battery storage system capable of powering a full island resort can run into the millions. Fresh water is another critical and expensive resource. Most private islands have no natural source of fresh water. They rely on rainwater collection, water barges brought in from the mainland, or desalination plants that convert seawater into drinking water. A reliable desalination system costs between $200,000 and $2 million to install, and then requires ongoing maintenance and energy to operate. Add in insurance, which for a private island in a hurricane-prone region can be extraordinarily expensive, and property taxes in some jurisdictions, and you're looking at total annual operating costs that can range from $500,000 to over $5 million per year for a fully staffed, fully operational private island. This is the number that most people never hear about. The purchase price gets the headlines, the running costs quietly drain the bank account. So who can actually afford this, and why do they buy? The psychology behind private island ownership is fascinating because it's rarely purely rational. For the ultra-wealthy, a private island is the ultimate status symbol, not because other people can see it, but precisely because they can't. It represents the highest level of privacy that money can buy. No paparazzi, no crowds, no unexpected encounters. Complete control over your environment. In a world where the extremely wealthy find it increasingly difficult to move freely in public, a private island offers something that almost no other asset can: genuine isolation and security.
But there is also a legitimate investment thesis behind island ownership, and this is where the commercial model becomes relevant. The private island rental market is one of the most exclusive and profitable segments of the luxury travel industry. Necker Island, for example, rents for approximately $80,000 to $100,000 per day when booked exclusively. That means a single week of rental revenue can bring in $500,000 to $700,000. In a strong year with high occupancy, an island like Necker can generate several million dollars in rental revenue annually. Other well-known examples include Musha Cay in the Bahamas, owned by illusionist David Copperfield, which rents for approximately $37,000 per night for groups. Gladden Private Island in Belize offers more modest luxury at around $7,000 per night. And across the Maldives, private island resorts operated by brands like Sonova, Six Senses, and Four Seasons generate revenues in the tens of millions of dollars annually. The commercial model, when executed correctly, can turn a private island from a financial drain into a genuine business, but this requires a very specific kind of investment and mindset. You are no longer just a property owner, you are running a hospitality business in one of the most challenging operating environments on Earth. You need marketing, you need a booking system, you need a world-class chef, staffing challenges, water sports equipment, and an experience that justifies the extraordinary price tag. Getting there is expensive, staying there is expensive, and the guests paying those prices have exceptionally high expectations. The failure rate among private island commercial ventures is significant. Many owners underestimate the operational complexity, the staffing challenges, and the sheer cost of delivering a five-star experience in a remote location. Islands that start as commercial ventures sometimes revert to private use after owners realize the business is harder than it looks. Others are quietly sold when the financial reality becomes overwhelming. And this brings us to one of the most important and least discussed aspects of private island economics: liquidity, or more accurately, the lack of it. Private islands are among the least liquid assets in the world. When you need to sell, your buyer pool is extraordinarily small. There are only so many people on Earth who can afford to purchase and develop a private island, and those people are often in no rush. They have options. They can negotiate aggressively. Islands can sit on the market for years, even decades, and in the meantime, the running costs continue. There have been notable cases where private island owners have sold at a significant discount simply because they no longer could sustain the operating costs and needed to exit quickly. The dream had become a burden, and the market knew it. There are also geopolitical and legal complexities that many buyers fail to fully appreciate before purchase. Owning land in a foreign country comes with risks that go beyond the financial. Changes in local government, shifts in property law, nationalization risks in certain jurisdictions, and disputes over land titles have all affected private island owners throughout history. In some countries, foreigners are not permitted to own land outright and must structure their ownership through a local entity or long-term lease. These legal structures add complexity, cost, and risk. Environmental regulations add another layer of complication. Many private islands sit within or adjacent to protected marine areas. Building restrictions can be severe. In some jurisdictions, you may own the island, but be heavily restricted in what you can build on it, where you can anchor boats, and how you can use the surrounding waters. Due diligence on a private island purchase is not a simple process. It requires lawyers, environmental consultants, local experts, and often years of patience. So, what does a realistic financial picture look like for a private island owner who gets everything right? Let us model it out. Assume you purchase a mid-sized island in the Caribbean for $5 million. You spend $10 million developing it into a luxury retreat with a main villa, 2 guest cottages, a dock, solar power, a desalination system, and a support building for staff. Your total capital investment is $15 million. Your annual operating costs, staff, fuel, maintenance, insurance, supplies, run approximately $1.5 million per year. You open the island to rentals at $15,000 per night, targeting 40 weeks of rental per year. At an average occupancy of 60% across those 40 weeks, you generate roughly $25 million over 10 years in gross rental revenue. After operating costs, you clear somewhere in the range of $10 million over that decade, which sounds impressive until you remember you invested $15 million up front. Your return on that capital over 10 years is modest at best, and that assumes everything goes according to plan. The islands that generate truly exceptional returns are the ones that achieved brand status. Necker Island is not just a private island, it's a globally recognized luxury destination with decades of media coverage, celebrity associations, and a waiting list of guests. That kind of brand value took Richard Branson decades to build and cannot be replicated simply by buying a beautiful piece of land in the ocean. For the vast majority of private island owners, the asset is never really about financial return. It's about lifestyle. It's about legacy. It's about having something that cannot be replicated or mass-produced. There is only one Necker Island. There is only one Musha Cay. And the islands that exist today in pristine, developed form are a finite resource. The supply of private islands is not growing. In fact, it's slowly shrinking as rising sea levels, erosion, and climate change gradually reduce the usable land area of low-lying islands around the world. This environmental reality is beginning to affect island values in complex ways. Islands in high-risk flood zones or hurricane corridors are becoming harder to insure and harder to sell. Meanwhile, islands at higher elevations in more climatically stable regions are commanding premium prices. The geography of island ownership is shifting, and the buyers paying attention to this shift are positioning themselves ahead of a market that most people have not yet noticed. Private island ownership at its core is a paradox. It's the most exclusive form of real estate on Earth, and one of the most financially demanding. It offers unparalleled freedom and privacy, and chains its owner to an endless series of logistical and financial obligations. It can be a trophy, a business, a legacy, or a burden. Sometimes all four at once.
The people who thrive as private island owners are the ones who understood the economics before they signed the papers. They went in clear-eyed about the costs, the risks, and the realities. They built a plan, whether that was a commercial rental model, a long-term development play, or a multi-generational family legacy, and they executed it with the same discipline they applied to whatever made them wealthy in the first place. And the people who sold their islands at a loss? Well, they weren't necessarily less wealthy or less intelligent. They simply underestimated what it truly means to own a piece of the ocean, because the ocean doesn't care how much money you have. It will corrode your buildings, flood your docks, and test your resolve every single day. Owning a private island is not a destination, it's a commitment, and the price of that commitment is far higher than anything listed on the sales brochure.